All right, guys, that's the little pea puddle that the transmission in the Pontiac leaves. It's really not a lot. So, busy weekend. Saturday, I spent a good chunk of the day working on the olds and figuring it out. So, we put the MSD in there, we put the Pro Billet distributor, and um, I come to find out that I had a big chunk of the vacuum cap gone. So I put a new vacuum cap on it thinking like, this is my problem. This is what's making it lean and popping. And no, that wasn't it at all. So, I started to kind of mess around and so there's a couple of ways to look at it, right? I'm looking at my AFR and my AFR reading while I'm cruising is like 11.5, which is fat, but the car does not feel fat. And by that, I mean, if you've driven a car that's overly rich, it almost feels like it's laboring, and maybe I'm fanatical, but you can feel it. So, it doesn't feel fat, and it feels responsive. Usually cars that are like overly fat are not very responsive. So, I went ahead and I added 37 nozzles, which apparently it already had 37 nozzles because the guy who built the carb that I bought it from a guy who does a lot of carburetor work. And this thing was been reworked and a lot of time into it. And he drilled out 35s to 37s. And so, but when I also did that, I fattened up the idle. So I went from one turn out to a turn and a half out on each corner. And then my popping on wide open throttle is almost gone. It's very, very light. Now, let me explain it to you guys. So what's happening is when I am driving, if I punch it and like the converter flashes and then like the cylinder pressure spikes, it'll start to pop, which usually tends to be like a lean condition. You would think that for the jetting, this thing would be like pig fat, but no, I am not fouling out plugs. It is, especially after adding the MSD, especially at idle, the plugs are really clean now. So all across the board, the plugs look really good. The timing mark on the strap is a little close to the threads, but I'm at 32 degrees initial right now, being conservative because I am running 93 in it, and I need race gas. So I also made a mistake when I was setting up my initial timing where I was actually getting like 41, 42 total. And when I added the 93, that detonation came back at idle. And at this point, I am totally convinced that I was having detonation at idle because once I reset the timing and once I fattened up the idle mixture, it went away. It didn't do it. It stopped. So, I am still going to firmly believe that I was having minor detonation at idle. I'm going to stick with that, whether you want to argue it or not. But weirder shit has happened, right? And this is a big learning curve for me because, we took an engine that ran good, but we also added a lot more. It got ported out more, bigger valves, the intake, I ported that out, and it's just been a different animal to tune. And every step along the way, you're going to get this. The faster you go, the more complicated it's going to get. And I am doing my best to work through everything. And I've had a lot of really good friends helping me out, chiming in with their advice. And I take it with a grain of salt, and that's no offense to them, but I have to kind of pick and choose and try. And I try a little bit of everything. And at this point, what I have to do is I'm going to jet up the primaries to help it out. Actually, no, secondaries. Sorry, I'm going to jet up the secondaries, and we're going to change the idle air bleeds to fatten it up a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick up 5 gallons of racing fuel. So that should be a 50-50 mix approximately in the car. Now, another thing I am also going to do is I am going to slow down the timing curve on this setup. So right now I'm at about 22 degrees initial approximately. I'm all in at 32. But I think I'm going to throw a medium spring in there. Right now, I think I got like 2 light springs. The timing comes all in real fast. It's under 2,000, so it may as well be like locked out because I launch at like 2,000 RPM. But what also happens is if your timing is coming in real soon, well, that also, it affects that. So some of that popping is probably detonation. I'm positive it's detonation. And if you slow down the timing curve, I'm not going to hurt my power band. It's just going to alleviate that condition because I've had this in the past with this engine. I've had it in the past with this engine, but years ago when we were figuring that combination when I first put it in. And I wish I did more videos when I did that because it was a really good learning curve. By my own merits, the fastest the car went was 1162. And then when I got introduced to one of our track carb gurus that a lot of guys use, we managed to go 1150s in the heat, and then in the fall we went 1140s. So, like a tenth and a half may not seem the most, but for a little bit of carburetor tweaking, that is huge. And I'm still working on it, but I am going to be dedicated to it. And I've just made changes that have gone in the right direction, and it's gotten a lot better. So from that standpoint, and also it was kind of like a warm, it was a nice day. Yesterday it was like high 70s, good air quality. So you figure in the fall, this thing's only going to get leaner. So jetting up is going to be the way to go. I may actually just run no power valves and square the carburetor up. And it might be a little bit fat, but we mainly race the car. So I don't think it's really going to be an issue. I am chasing some issues that are more drivability stuff, but this is messing with this car is the most I've driven it on the street probably in the last 2 years, to be honest with you guys. I've been driving it a lot to my spots where I test, and the car cruises absolutely great. Doesn't miss a beat, doesn't break up. It is fantastic. It is just that popping under heavy load. Keep in mind that when the heads were redone, they were milled approximately 5,000s, and we added bigger valves, which also will eat up some of that combustion chamber space. So roughly, our compressor went from like 10.3 to 1 to like 10.5, 10.6 to 1 approximately, if my calculations are correct. And our ring seal is also much better. This thing used to puff a lot out of the breathers, and when my buddy did the heads, he saw some stuff in the valve job, even though he did it, that he mentioned that, maybe the valves weren't sealing that good. We had a little bit of blow by, which, it's gonna pass some of that built up excessive cylinder pressure, right? So keep that in mind. But the coolest part is that today we went racing. It was a doubleheader, and we took the Pontiac and we got the car into the 14s. It went a 1485 at 89 miles per hour, and I am absolutely happy. I can consistently catch 060 lights with that car. It is actually kind of tough to catch a good light with a slow car because I am afraid of going red. So I found my sweet spot with that car. And then we got knocked out in the second race, first round, but we went 14s, and I cannot be happier. And it just was a matter of dropping the exhaust, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, almost 4/10. So our 2.5-inch exhaust and our turbo mufflers on that car were eating up 4/10. I put 16-inch extensions on it, and the car was happy all day. So obviously the car's in the driveway. My wife's got her sister over, and I'm at the ass end of the driveway with my car because I showed up late. But we are done for the season. I'm not going to make the last race because my wife got concert tickets, and it's like the first big thing we're doing since her injury. And you know what? I've been very, very lucky to run this season. Hey, what's up, Finnegan? And I've managed to do okay with the Pontiac in points. Not the worst, but certainly missing a race is going to probably set us back. But you know what? It is what it is. And we're going to live with it because we're going to get the car running right. And I am highly considering just not racing this car at all next year, putting a cage in it. I'm hearing noises out of the rear end, and it's maybe going to be one of those years where we're going to go ahead and actually completely not do anything to it. We're going to get the combination dialed in if we possibly can this fall, but this car needs some TLC. We did race it for 5 years with almost no work done to it as far as major maintenance, and I think it's time to upgrade the brakes. I think it's time to do a little bit of rear end work and finally put in the Turbo 350 with the Ultra Bell and get a really nice converter for it. But then again, the TCI 4500 that's in there has been very good, very consistent, so I'm not going to argue. So either way, guys, I want to appreciate you guys following along through the MSD install. I hope it helps anybody else out there. We are going to get to put this together. I'm going to need a little bit of money because I took the oil pump, and then I'm going to need to figure out an oil pan situation. And but we're going to get the J-headed 350 back together. My buddy is working on the heads, and since we've had so many issues lately, this engine I think is going to be destined to go on the dyno and make sure everything is good. And this is going to be our backup that we know is going to be good. It did run good, but the wrist pin walked out, and that's just life, you know. It's been a hell of a season. It's been a lot of fun, though. My race family, all the people that I run with in Sportsman, everybody's real tight, and everybody had a rough season. I wasn't the only one breaking. A lot of people had issues this year, but, you know, we lived to race another day, and that's the most important part. So, guys, I'm going to graciously say thank you guys for following along. Share, like, subscribe. We have things coming up. A lot of things personally in my life have gone from one end to the other, but I don't need to even touch on that subject. But our focus is still going to be what we are doing, and it's time to get this figured out. Now, I have to get the car up on jack stands and check the rear brakes because something is rattling back there. I think the backing plate's shifted. And then I am also going to drop the diff cover because I want to make sure that that spool didn't shift again. This thing gets beat up pulling it in my driveway, and I should probably take a picture and show you guys what it looks like. And it's definitely not spool material to pull up my fucking driveway. But we'll let you guys go. This video's been long enough. Share, like, subscribe. You know, hit the like button. Follow us on Instagram. You know, we got a bunch of racing videos, compilation racing videos. Share them. I'm doing this to help other poor fucks like me who just want to go out and have fun and not spend a fortune. And that's it's been a lot of fun for me the last 18 years just doing it this way. It's rough, it's tough, it takes patience, but it always pays off. So we'll let you guys go.